Welcome back to the deep dive. So today we're cracking open some really interesting source material. It gets right to the heart of something, well, incredibly important. How you keep growing.
Yeah.
How you sustain that sense of mastery, right? Not just hitting a peak, but staying there, staying at the top of your game long term. It really explores this idea that even after you hit those milestones, new challenges, well, they don't just might show up. The source says they absolutely will.
That's right. And for you, the listener, if you're someone who's already, put in the work, built a life where your purpose and what you do, they feel connected, you're probably looking ahead, asking, okay, so what's next?
Where do I go from here?
Exactly. And this deep dive, it's really kind of custom built for that exact question. It's about understanding how to navigate life's continuous cycles to sustain mastery, viewing it less as a finish line you cross and maybe more as an ongoing journey.
Okay, and our mission here is to really unpack this concept of the evolving self that comes through in these sources, finding those maybe surprising nuggets that help you not just cope with the shifts, but actually thrive through them, these changes that inevitably come after success. Okay, let's dig in.
Okay. So the source material, it really anchors us in a perspective that, it resonates across time, across traditions.
Yeah.
Mastery is fundamentally a journey. It's an unfolding process. It is not a final destination.
Right.
Think about it. People reach these incredible heights, maybe in their careers, their personal lives, their skills. And then sometimes they feel that sense of, okay, what now?
Or they get tripped up when the ground shifts under them a bit.
Exactly. They thought reaching the summit was like the end of the climb.
Yeah.
But the core insight here, it's that the universe itself is in constant dynamic motion, cycles of expansion, contraction. And you, the self, you're part of that whole thing. You're not static. You're not a finished portrait. You're dynamic, evolving, always changing, always becoming.
So trying to freeze yourself or your situation right at that moment of peak success, it's like trying to stop the ocean.
Precisely. It just doesn't work like that.
Okay.
And this ties directly into the cyclical nature of growth. This is a really key theme in the sources, including work from people like Dr. DeMartini. Life keeps presenting these continuous spiraling cycles.
Spiraling, okay.
Yeah. You might feel like you've dealt with a certain challenge, learned the lesson, integrated the wisdom, and then maybe later down the line, a similar theme just pops up again.
Okay, wait, with these recurring challenges, they aren't a sign that you failed, that you didn't learn it right the first time.
Yeah.
Or that you've lost your touch somehow.
No, not at all. And this is where it gets really, really interesting. The sources frame these, let's call them perceived negatives, or these new challenges that show up after success. They frame them not as failures, but as the universe's next invitation.
An invitation.
Yeah, an opportunity to integrate the lessons you thought you learned, maybe at an even deeper level, to refine your understanding, and essentially to ascend, to move to a higher turn on your own personal spiral of evolution. And this applies directly to your journey, listener.
Okay, the spiral metaphor, that makes a lot more sense than just a circle. You're not just repeating the same level. You're revisiting familiar territory.
Yeah.
From higher up.
With more wisdom, hopefully.
Exactly right. And sustaining that mastery, it hinges entirely on embracing this continuous evolution. Recognizing that spiral is key. The source material points out that, old judgments you had, maybe fears you thought you'd conquered, or imbalances you worked so hard to balance, they might resurface. But here's the twist. They often show up in new contexts, or maybe slightly different disguises.
Okay, give me an example. Like maybe you overcame a fear of public speaking in, say, small team meetings.
Right.
And then, bam, you're asked to give a keynote to 1,000 people. Same basic theme. Fear of speaking, but a totally new scale.
That's a perfect example. Or maybe dealing with a certain kind of difficult personality at work, and then years later you encounter a really similar dynamic, but this time it's in like a volunteer group or something.
Exactly. Those are it. And the task isn't about making sure these patterns never reappear. Again, that's just impossible in a dynamic system like life. The task, the real work, is about consistently applying the tools and the wisdom you've gained when you're faced with these new or recurring situations.
Okay, so the goal isn't a challenge-free existence. That sounds nice, but unrealistic.
Totally unrealistic.
The goal is to get really, really good at navigating challenges when they inevitably show up again, further up the spiral.
Precisely. And this means, pulling out that toolkit you've already started building.
Okay, what kind of tools are we talking about here?
Well, the sources detail things like balancing your perceptions, actively looking for the equal and opposite sides of any event or challenge, finding the hidden benefits, even in what seems negative at first glance. It means dissolving the emotional charges that these recurrences might trigger. Processing the frustration or the fear so it doesn't just run the show.
Finding the opportunity inside the difficulty, yeah. Even when it feels frustratingly familiar.
Yes. And it also means realigning with your highest values, but in this new context. Asking yourself, okay, given this specific challenge right now, what is truly most important to me?
What principles do I want to guide my actions here?
Exactly. Which principles do I want to stand for and act from in this moment?
It's like that continuous process,
Yeah.
taking the lead of the difficulty and transmuting it back into the gold of wisdom and growth.
Yeah.
The Source uses this phrase, cosmic alchemy. I like that.
It does. It's a great phrase. It's all about transforming your relationship with challenge. The Source uses this really wonderful analogy, too, of a dragon shedding its old, worn-out scales,
Okay.
only to reveal stronger, more vibrant skin underneath.
Yeah, I like that image. Continuous renewal.
That's the image, yeah. Continuous renewal inherent in this process. And it highlights the need for vigilance, but critically, vigilance without rigidity.
Vigilance in watching your own thoughts, your emotions, spotting those patterns,
Right.
but not being stuck in just one rigid way of responding to them. Is that it?
Exactly. You need
Yeah.
to be observant, to spot when an old pattern is trying to reassert itself. But life is fluid. It's always changing. The exact method you use to balance perceptions in situation A might need a subtle tweak for situation B, even if it feels similar.
Right.
Applying these principles requires adaptability. And listen, it absolutely requires cultivating self-compassion.
Ah, that's important.
Huge. Mastery is a journey of continuous learning, occasional missteps, feeling frustrated when an old pattern shows up again. That's just part of being human on this spiral. It's not a failure of mastery, it's just another turn.
So it's not about achieving perfection. It's about persistent, adaptable navigation, being kind to yourself along the way.
Which leads us to another really crucial point. Your evolving compass, your values. And as you grow, as you ascend on your spiral, your hierarchy of values, it's going to subtly shift. It just does. What felt like your absolute highest priority, maybe a year ago or 5 years ago, maybe after achieving a certain level of success,
Yeah.
that might naturally be less dominant now, making space for something new to emerge as truly paramount for you now.
Like maybe early on, your primary value was achievement and recognition.
Could be.
But after you built your successful business, maybe it shifted more towards contribution and impact or mentorship.
Precisely. Those are great examples. And if you don't regularly check in with your values, consciously reevaluating what's truly most important to you now, well, your internal compass might still be pointing towards an old north.
Guiding your energy, your decisions towards something that doesn't quite align anymore, doesn't fit who you're becoming or the opportunities on this new turn of the spiral.
Exactly right. Consciously revisiting your values ensures your compass stays accurate. It truly guides you through the new territories, the new challenges that your ongoing evolution keeps presenting.
This really paints a picture of the journey as,
Wow.
well, infinite. It's not about arriving somewhere specific. It's about the process itself,
Yeah.
lived consciously.
The source material is very clear on this point. Your journey of mastering your life, your cosmic alchemy, it is infinite. And every new challenge, every recurring pattern that shows up in a new guise, it's framed not as a problem to be just eliminated, but as a sacred opportunity.
A sacred opportunity. Wow, that really flips the script on how we tend to view difficulty, doesn't it?
It really does. And it connects back to the incredible potential within you, within the listener. That ongoing commitment to growth, the consistent application of this wisdom when life throws you those inevitable cycles, that's a living testament to the boundless potential of the human spirit.
Yeah.
Forever dancing with the evolving cosmos.
Dancing with the cosmos. I love that image. Okay, so this is all profound stuff. How do we take these ideas and actually put them into practice? The source outlines a practical exercise. It calls it the dragon trial, the evolving compass. Sounds intense.
It sounds intense, but it's actually a really powerful way to integrate these concepts experientially, not just intellectually. So the first step is pretty simple. Just identify a recent recurrence.
Okay.
Think about a time in your life, maybe recently, when an old challenge, an old fear, maybe an old judgment, something you thought you'd processed or mastered, seemed to reappear. Maybe not the exact same event, but the feeling of it or the pattern of the challenge felt, frustratingly familiar.
Like maybe that old feeling of not being good enough creeping back in when you're starting a big new project, even though you actually have a track record of success now.
Exactly that kind of thing.
Mm.
That's step one, just noticing it. Step two is to observe the shift. How did your response to this recurrence? How did it differ this time compared to how you might have reacted way back? Before learning these principles, these tools, did you notice any subtle pause before reacting? Any change in your initial emotional intensity? Even just a flicker of recognizing the pattern for what it was?
Was there a moment where I sort of caught myself falling into the old loop? Or did I maybe automatically react just a tiny bit differently this time?
Precisely. Observe that difference, however small. Then, step three. Consciously reapply the tools. Choose one or more of the principles we've talked about. Maybe it's balancing perceptions, actively looking for the hidden benefit in this specific recurrence.
Okay.
Maybe it's using a method to dissolve the emotional charge it brought up for you. Or maybe it's simply reaffirming your highest values in the face of it. The point is to actively work with this specific recurring challenge using your toolkit.
Got it. This is where the cosmic alchemy happens in real time, right?
Yeah.
Right on that specific point of friction.
It is, exactly. Then, fourth step, update your compass. Reflect. How did this recurrence, even though it felt familiar, how did it actually push you to a new level of understanding or mastery? What new insight about yourself, or maybe about the nature of reality, did encountering this old pattern in its new form reveal to you? How has your evolving self integrated a deeper layer of wisdom specifically from this experience?
So how did running into that old wall again actually show me a new way around it? Or maybe even a new way through it that I just couldn't see before?
Beautifully put. That's the question. And finally, step five, plan for continuous growth. Based on what you learned in this little trial, what's one small, tangible practice or maybe a commitment you can make going forward? Something to ensure you continue to navigate your evolving self and the inevitable cycles it encounters with conscious awareness and sustained mastery.
That last step feels really key, translating the insight from the reflection into ongoing action, making it stick.
Absolutely. It grounds the whole thing. And the ultimate meaning of this trial, as the source summarizes it, it isn't to prove you can avoid challenges forever. It reinforces that growth is cyclical. It is continuous. True mastery isn't the absence of difficulties. It's about the consistent, conscious application of your wisdom and your tools in the face of those challenges as they inevitably reappear on your path, on your spiral.
So the recurring patterns aren't a bug in the system, they're actually a feature. And your mastery is shown in how you learn to dance with them each time they show up.
That's it exactly, how you dance with them.
Wow. Okay. This deep dive has really shifted my perspective, and I hope yours, listening on what mastery truly means. It's not some static achievement you reach and then defend. It's a dynamic, ongoing process. It's about embracing this cyclical journey of the evolving self and seeing those inevitable challenges not as roadblocks, but as, well, fundamental parts of the path.
Yeah.
Maybe even sacred parts, as the source says.
Sustaining mastery really is about letting go of that idea of a fixed endpoint. It's about leaning into the ongoing spiral, bringing your accumulated wisdom, your tools, to bear on the new expressions of old themes that arise at every single turn.
Yeah. And really reframing those recurring difficulties you encounter, not seeing them as annoying setbacks you should have overcome already.
Right, letting go of the should.
But seeing them as valuable, inevitable steps. Steps designed to help you ascend, to get to that higher turn on your unique path of evolution.
It changes everything when you can start to see them that way. It really does.
So as we wrap up this deep dive, here's something to maybe ponder. Building on these powerful insights from the source material, think about a subtle shift you might have noticed recently in a recurring challenge you face. Maybe it showed up in a slightly different area of your life this time. Or perhaps it felt just a tiny bit less intense. Or maybe your initial reaction was just a fraction calmer, even for a moment. What might that subtle shift be telling you? What new level of understanding, unlocked perhaps by that very recurrence, is waiting right there as your next invitation to ascend to an even higher turn on your unique spiral of evolution?